You know, sometimes I feel an almost irresistible urge to march straight up to the great doors of the royal vault and knock with all my might, saying, "Come on now, just open them and show us what's inside. We already know they're there." Because these are not just myths whispered through time. These jewels are real, tangible pieces of history, shimmering fragments of a world that truly existed. They're not imaginary treasures. They are masterpieces that once dazzled under candlelight and courtly chandeliers. It's just that they haven't been seen by the public for such an extraordinarily long time, so long that they've almost taken on the air of legend themselves. And it's not as though they've been damaged or lost, nor quietly sold away to some distant collector. No, it feels more as if they're simply waiting, hidden in the dark, unable to find the perfect moment to shine again. And that to me is such a heartbreaking thought, because several of these incredible pieces could be brought out and allowed to sparkle in the light again, even tomorrow, if someone only chose to do so. So today I want to take you on a journey through those royal treasures that have lingered far too long in the shadows, those silent, sleeping jewels that I, if I'm completely honest, have been dreaming of seeing return to the world once more. So, where on earth do we even begin with a treasure chest this endlessly deep and glittering? I think the most fitting place to start is with the jewels that tell a deeply human story, one that resonates far beyond crowns and courts the story of changing times and evolving beauty. Let's turn the clock all the way back to the year 1923. The future King George VI is preparing to marry the radiant and charming Lady Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon, and the entire nation is alive with celebration and joy. Among the flood of splendid wedding gifts lies one that stands out above the rest, a breathtaking treasure from the citizens of the City of London. It is a long, graceful sautoir necklace composed of 5 exquisite strands of pearls, each one shimmering softly, all brought together by a magnificent diamond clasp that glows like captured starlight. In those early portraits of the young Duchess of York, you can see her wearing it proudly. It's the absolute essence of 1920s, elegance long, fluid and effortlessly glamorous. She wore it for a famous series of portraits taken at the Van Dyck Studios, looking every inch the picture of modern royalty, confident and luminous. And then, almost mysteriously, came silence. For nearly 100 years, the necklace simply vanished from public sight. It stopped appearing, stopped being worn, as if it had quietly slipped out of the story altogether. The simplest explanation is fashion itself. That dramatically long, flowing sautoir style, so beloved in the roaring 20s, doesn't easily fit within the sleek and structured royal wardrobes of today. It's a difficult piece to style, to make feel contemporary. Yet that isn't always the end of the journey for jewels like this. In fact, we have the perfect example waiting just ahead, proof that even the most forgotten treasures can find a new life when the moment is right. You see, the Queen Mother herself was given another truly magnificent sautoir as a wedding present, a creation of remarkable beauty and sentiment. This one came directly from Queen Alexandra, a woman whose exquisite taste in jewels defined an entire royal generation. The necklace was a breathtaking work of art, set with radiant amethysts that glowed with soft violet light, and crowned with a grand heart-shaped amethyst pendant that seemed to pulse with colour and life. Much like the pearl sautoir, this piece too slipped quietly from sight. For almost 1 full century, it disappeared from public view, hidden away as decades and fashions changed. And then, as if awakened from a long royal slumber, it reappeared worn once again, this time by Queen Camilla, in the year 2012. But there was a twist, a touch of clever reinvention. The necklace had been masterfully reimagined, shortened from its original sweeping length into a chic and striking modern piece. It was the perfect balance between honouring history and embracing the elegance of the present day. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could that same destiny be waiting for the exquisite pearl sautoir, the one that has slept for so long in the shadows? Perhaps its own new chapter is yet to come, ready to shimmer once more in the light of a new royal era. That kind of quiet disappearance, the sort where a jewel simply fades from view without drama, is one thing. But then there are certain creations so deeply rooted in the spirit of their age, so unmistakably shaped by the artistry and ideals of their moment, that they almost become living portraits of their era. And for that, we must look to the ultimate royal connoisseur of jewels, the incomparable Queen Mary. In the year 1901, as the newly titled Princess of Wales, Queen Mary commissioned an extraordinary and opulent choker necklace from the renowned house of Garrard. She named it the Love Trophy Collar, and it was nothing short of spectacular, a statement in every sense of the word. Crafted in the grand and ornate Louis XVI style, the collar was adorned with exquisite diamond panels, featuring what were poetically known as amatory trophies. Cupid's bow and a quiver of arrows crossed with a burning torch, all meticulously rendered in diamonds and suspended from a sparkling diamond ribbon. Even beyond its breathtaking craftsmanship, the piece carried profound personal meaning. It was created using heirloom diamonds that once belonged to Queen Mary's grandmother and aunt, binding together family legacy and regal artistry. In the early years of the 20th century, Queen Mary wore it for several splendid portraits, where its brilliance and structure seemed to echo her regal poise and determination. Yet, even for her, a woman whose jewellery defined royal style for decades, its moment was fleeting. Fashion evolved swiftly, and the heavy Edwardian collars soon gave way to lighter, freer designs. Eventually, Queen Mary passed the necklace to her daughter-in-law, the future Queen Mother, though history records no occasion on which she ever wore it. When Queen Elizabeth II inherited the piece in the year 2002, it too remained unseen, quietly resting among the treasures of the vault. But there is a glimmer of wonderful news for those of us who've admired this legendary creation only through old, faded black and white photographs. For the first time in more than 100 years, the Love Trophy collar has been brought back into the light. It now stands proudly as one of the star exhibits at the Edwardians, Age of Elegance exhibition, currently displayed in the King's Gallery at Buckingham Palace. And it is not alone there. A few other long silent treasures we'll soon explore have also emerged from the shadows. It is, truly, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see these sleeping beauties shimmering once again before our eyes. If the Love Trophy collar carries an air of ceremony and grandeur, then the Teck Crescent Tiara is something altogether more intimate, a jewel steeped in personal history and family legacy. Its story begins with Queen Mary's mother, the remarkable and commanding Princess Mary Adelaide, Duchess of Teck. A granddaughter of King George III, she was a woman of immense spirit and warmth, larger than life in every sense, and with an unmistakable passion for fine jewels that reflected her vibrant personality. From diamonds bequeathed to her by her aunt, the Duchess conceived this extraordinary tiara. The design is almost Gothic in its intricacy, a harmonious balance of natural beauty and regal artistry. Diamond-set wild roses bloomed delicately between 20 shining diamond crescents, each one capturing and scattering light like moonbeams caught in metal. The result is a piece of jewellery entirely unique, romantic, yet stately, feminine, yet undeniably strong. After Princess Mary Adelaide's death, the tiara passed gracefully down through the Teck family line until it came into the possession of her daughter, Queen Mary. In keeping with her deep respect for family history, Queen Mary later gifted it to her daughter-in-law, the then Queen Elizabeth, not long after her husband's accession to the throne in the year 1936. The Queen Mother wore it most famously during the Grand Royal Tour of Canada in 1939, pairing it elegantly with long white evening gloves during a gala in Quebec. In that moment, under the soft Canadian lights, it seemed to shimmer with both heritage and hope. Yet, after that glittering appearance, the tiara quietly disappeared from public life, folded away into the safety of the royal vaults. Today, this distinctive piece rests on long-term loan to Queen Camilla, a beautiful fusion of Victorian sentiment and Georgian symmetry. And though it has yet to find its perfect 21st century occasion, one cannot help but believe that its moment will come again, when its crescent moons and wild roses will once more sparkle beneath the lights of a new royal age. From crescents, we now move to brilliance in its purest, most linear form, straight, glittering lines of light. This next story begins not in London's royal drawing rooms, but in the opulent twilight of Imperial Russia. In those final, dazzling days of the Empire, Grand Duchess Vladimir, one of St. Petersburg's most distinguished and charismatic figures, possessed a breathtaking Riviere necklace composed of immense, perfectly matched diamonds. Each stone caught the light like a fragment of frozen fire, creating a spectacle of royal splendour that few could rival. But history, as ever, turned suddenly and cruelly. When the revolution engulfed Russia, the Grand Duchess's extraordinary collection of jewels was left behind, concealed within a secret vault deep inside the Vladimir Palace. Then came one of the most daring rescues in royal history. A devoted friend of the family, at great personal risk, managed to retrieve the jewels, smuggling them out of the palace in two plain Gladstone bags that betrayed nothing of their priceless contents. Eventually, against all odds, those treasures found their way to the exiled Duchess. After her death, her children inherited the collection, and in time her daughter decided to part with several of the most significant pieces. Among them was that spectacular diamond Riviere, which found a new guardian in Queen Mary, a woman whose eye for royal jewels was as shrewd as it was imaginative. In the year 1928, Queen Mary turned to the House of Garrard to transform the necklace into something even more magnificent. The result was a masterpiece of craftsmanship and versatility, an astonishingly long, fluid necklace that could be worn in multiple ways at its full dramatic length, divided into two shorter necklaces, or even reconfigured into a pair of glittering bracelets. She wore it often during the 1930s, the diamonds cascading down her gown like a river of pure, liquid light. When Queen Mary passed away in 1953, the necklace was inherited by her granddaughter, Queen Elizabeth II. Yet, despite its grandeur, the piece's public life came to a gentle and graceful halt. The late Queen, ever practical and unpretentious, was not particularly fond of very long necklaces. With her signature dry wit, she once quipped that such pieces get in the soup. And so, this extraordinary jewel, one that had survived a revolution, crossed a continent, and witnessed the collapse of empires, has spent the past 70 years resting quietly in the royal vaults, its history far more dramatic than its tranquil present. But Queen Mary was far more than a collector and curator of history's great jewels. She was a creator, an artist in diamonds who built her treasures from the ground up, always with an exquisite sense of tradition and legacy. In the year 1920, she conceived one of her most magnificent and imposing creations, a grand diamond stomacher, that regal and formal ornament designed to adorn the bodice in the most splendid fashion. To bring her vision to life, Queen Mary chose to repurpose diamonds from two of her own wedding gifts from the year 1893-1, a diamond crescent from the loyal citizens of the town of Swansea, and the other a dazzling stomacher gifted by the Maharaja of Kapurthala. From these heirlooms, she commissioned a new jewel that would embody the very spirit of royal opulence. The finished piece was breathtaking, an intricate lattice of brilliance that caught and reflected light like frost upon silk. Though by the 1920s stomachers were already slipping out of fashion, considered a little too grand for modern style, Queen Mary's creation was so magnificent that it transcended the trends of its time. In 1947, with her granddaughter, Princess Elizabeth, preparing for her royal wedding, Queen Mary bestowed this monumental jewel upon her as a wedding gift, a gesture both affectionate and symbolic, a passing of royal heritage from one generation to the next. The young princess, later Queen Elizabeth II, showed remarkable ingenuity in how she wore it. Rather than donning the stomacher in its full imposing form, she cleverly detached its lower section and wore it as a grand brooch, large, elegant, and entirely her own interpretation. In doing so, she managed to honour the gift's legacy while adapting it to the modern world. For decades afterward, that was how the public knew it in fragments, glimpsed as brooches sparkling on the Queen's shoulder during formal occasions. Then came the year 2002, marking her Golden Jubilee. For a state dinner at Windsor Castle, in what felt like a deeply personal and deliberate gesture, a luminous tribute to her heritage and to the long arc of her reign, Queen Elizabeth wore the stomacher in its full, glorious form, for the first and only time in public. And just like the resplendent Love Trophy collar, this extraordinary stomacher now has its own moment in the spotlight once again. It is proudly displayed at the Edwardians' Age of Elegance exhibition, offering us another rare and precious opportunity to stand before it, to see with our own eyes the artistry, history, and sheer magnificence of a jewel that bridges centuries of royal legacy. If the great diamond stomacher represented Queen Mary's statement of personal magnificence, then her next creation spoke not just of grandeur, but of empire, of global reach, ceremony, and authority. This was no mere jewel. It was a proclamation of imperial power itself. We are speaking, of course, of the legendary Delhi Durbar stomacher. This extraordinary piece was conceived for one of the most majestic moments in royal history, the Delhi Durbar of the year 1911, when King George V and Queen Mary were formally proclaimed Emperor and Empress of India. It was the very summit of imperial pageantry, and the stomacher designed for that occasion was nothing less than a masterpiece of opulent symbolism. To call it a single jewel would be an understatement. It was an entire suite of diamonds and gemstones arranged into one cohesive, commanding ornament, a vision of structured brilliance. A lattice, or trellis, of diamonds formed the foundation, every inch designed to catch and scatter the blazing Indian sunlight. Yet what made it truly remarkable were the jewels it was crafted to contain stones of immense historical and emotional weight. At its centre gleamed the famous Cullinan V, the heart-shaped diamond known for its extraordinary clarity and brilliance. Just beneath it rested another fragment from the same legendary stone, the Cullinan VIII, set within a vivid frame of Cambridge emeralds that added a rich green contrast to the icy fire above. Together, they created a composition that was not merely beautiful, it was symbolic. This was a jewel meant to represent dominion, unity, and power, a vision of empire rendered in light and colour. It was, quite literally, the ultimate display, a piece so heavy with history and meaning that it could never truly belong to any ordinary occasion. And so, after that single monumental day beneath the blazing Indian sun, the full stomacher was never again worn in its complete form. Its component parts were designed to separate, and over the years, the individual brooches have been seen on their own, adorning queens in quieter, more modern ways. Yet the complete Delhi Durbar stomacher remains what it has always been, a relic of an age that has long since passed, as a glittering testament to a time when jewels did not merely adorn royalty, they declared the power of an empire to the world. And that idea, the notion of jewels being created, dismantled, and then reborn in new and surprising forms, leads us to one of the royal vault's most intriguing mysteries. This is not a story of imperial grandeur, but rather a quieter and more enigmatic tale, centred on an older and exquisitely refined piece, a pearl and diamond stomacher that Queen Mary inherited through her mother's lineage. Its origins reach back to the elegant world of the late Georgian era, beginning with Princess Mary, Duchess of Gloucester, one of the daughters of King George III. The Duchess, known for her grace and deep affection for family heirlooms, left this magnificent stomacher to her niece Queen Mary's mother, ensuring its continuation within the family's line of treasured jewels. There are beautiful, softly lit photographs that capture Queen Mary herself wearing it, a breathtaking cascade of 15 large, lustrous, pear-shaped pearls, each one framed in diamonds that seem to shimmer like frost around candlelight. It is the very embodiment of royal refinement, graceful, balanced, and serene. And yet, like so many of the jewels we have followed through history, it eventually disappears from view. Unlike the Grand Delhi Durbar stomacher, whose separate components are carefully documented and traceable, the fate of this particular piece is far more uncertain. After Queen Mary's lifetime, it seems to have quietly slipped from the royal inventories as a complete object, fading into obscurity without record or explanation. But as with so many mysteries, absence only deepens fascination. Jewellery historians, with their meticulous eyes and enduring curiosity, have since pieced together a theory both compelling and poetic, one that suggests this forgotten stomacher did not truly vanish, but instead lives on, transformed into another jewel of legend, a piece not hidden but famous, cherished, and still very much alive in the royal imagination. I'm talking, of course, about Queen Mary's lover's knot tiara, one of the most recognisable and beloved jewels in modern royal history. This is the dazzling creation so famously worn by Diana, Princess of Wales, whose radiant beauty and poise made it instantly iconic, and now a signature piece for the current Princess of Wales, continuing its long and glittering lineage. What gives the tiara its unmistakable charm and movement are those elegant, swinging, pear-shaped pearls, each one delicately suspended to catch the light with every turn of the head. They are the heart of its allure, the detail that makes it both regal and deeply romantic. And according to the most compelling research by jewellery historians, it's believed that at least some of those very pearls once belonged to the long-lost pearl and diamond stomacher we just spoke of. When Queen Mary commissioned the lover's knot tiara from Garrard in the year 1913, she may have chosen to have those heirloom pearls repurposed, breathing new life into them as part of a piece that would endure for generations. And yet, even as the tiara continues to dazzle, I can't help but wonder what became of the original stomacher. To see it once more, exactly as Queen Mary wore it, would be to glimpse a vanished chapter of royal artistry, a link between past and present made visible again. But that, of course, is the lingering mystery. We simply do not know whether the stomacher still exists somewhere in its full original form, waiting quietly in the shadows of the vaults, or whether it was completely dismantled, its essence scattered among other royal jewels. That uncertainty is what gives this story its haunting beauty, a jewel lost to time, yet perhaps never truly gone. Sometimes, the most revealing stories are not found in what is proudly displayed, but in what remains untouched. Those pieces that, despite belonging to collections cherished and often worn, are consistently left behind. And that brings us to one of the most fascinating enigmas from the renowned Greville bequest, the Greville diamond bow brooch. The Greville inheritance, passed to the Queen Mother in the year 1942, forms a cornerstone of the modern royal jewellery collection. Its tiaras and necklaces, brilliant, elegant and versatile, have appeared time and again at state occasions and portraits throughout the decades. Yet, amid all these celebrated treasures, the diamond bow brooch stands apart as an extraordinary exception. This is no delicate pin or subtle accessory. Created by the legendary House of Boucheron around the year 1900, the brooch is an immense, exuberant bow of diamonds, alive with sparkle and movement fashioned from an even older tiara. It is a masterpiece of Belle Epoque craftsmanship, both whimsical and majestic. The Queen Mother did wear it, though only rarely, perhaps recognising both its grandeur and its challenges. And when it passed to Queen Elizabeth II in the year 2002, it quietly returned to slumber. The late Queen was never seen wearing it, though we know it remains safe within the royal vaults. Its continued existence was confirmed when it was photographed for the Royal Collection Catalogue in the year 2012, untouched, unchanged, and unworn for more than 6 decades. The most likely reason for its long rest is not mystery, but practicality. While bow motifs are eternally stylish, the sheer scale of this piece is formidable. It is large, weighty, and dazzling, an extraordinary work of art, but not easily compatible with the lighter fabrics and modern silhouettes favoured in today's royal wardrobe. And yet, one cannot help but wonder, Queen Camilla, with her natural flair for grand statement jewels and her fearless embrace of bold, regal glamour, seems precisely the sort of woman who might rise to the challenge. Perhaps, someday, she will find an occasion magnificent enough to justify its return, a moment worthy of bringing this extraordinary diamond bow out of the shadows and back into the light where it belongs. The Kent Amethyst Demiparia tells an even more curious story, one of selective admiration and quiet neglect. This striking collection, composed of a grand necklace, matching earrings, 3 brooches, and elegant hair combs, is set with deep violet amethysts, both faceted and cabochon, each framed in diamonds that shimmer like frost around midnight glass. It originally belonged to the Duchess of Kent, the mother of Queen Victoria, a woman whose refined taste shaped much of the early 19th century royal aesthetic. The Duchess herself wore the central brooch for formal portraits and the complete parure for her granddaughter's wedding in the year 1858, where its royal purple glow must have perfectly embodied dignity, devotion, and rank. Upon her death, Queen Victoria inherited the set and, understanding both its sentimental and dynastic value, designated it as an heirloom of the crown, a treasure to be passed from queen to queen in perpetuity. In the early 20th century, Queen Alexandra incorporated elements of the necklace into her gown for the state opening of Parliament in 1902, adding her distinctive flair for integrating jewels directly into fashion. Decades later, during the dark years of the Second World War, the Queen Mother wore the large brooch adorned with its 3 pendant drops, amethyst being regarded as a gem of mourning and contemplation. Its sombre elegance seemed to capture the mood of an empire at war, regal yet restrained. When Queen Elizabeth II inherited the parure in 1952, she brought it out only sparingly. She wore the complete necklace and earrings precisely twice in her long reign, most memorably during the state visit to Portugal in 1985, where their rich violet hue complemented her serene composure. The brooch, with all 3 pendants, appeared on only a handful of occasions, including the state visit to America in 1991. Yet the simpler version of the brooch, worn without its pendants, became one of her most beloved and frequently seen pieces, often chosen to accompany her lilac and purple ensembles throughout the decades. Still, it remains something of a quiet tragedy that the full parure has so rarely been seen in its complete form. The necklace, with its graceful Victorian craftsmanship and fascinating design, deserves another moment in the light. Just imagine it now. The Princess of Wales, poised and radiant, wearing that historic necklace, the amethyst earrings glinting softly, and the great brooch restored to its full glory with all 3 pendants attached. It would be nothing short of breathtaking, a revival of royal history shimmering once more before the world's eyes. Let us now move into the cooler, more tranquil corner of the royal jewel vaults, a realm where serene turquoise meets the refined sparkle of early 20th century diamonds. Here we find the story of the Persian turquoise parure, a collection that has always carried quiet importance, yet somehow never achieved the prominence of a royal signature piece. As with so many of the great treasures of the British crown, its journey begins with Queen Mary. Around the year 1923, she acquired the complete set, a tiara, a necklace, a brooch, and earrings, each piece featuring vivid Persian turquoises framed by brilliant diamonds, all crafted by the prestigious house of Garrard. The result was a vision of cool, oceanic elegance, radiant yet understated. Queen Mary, ever thoughtful in her distribution of family jewels, chose to present this stunning parure as a wedding gift to her new daughter-in-law, Lady Elizabeth Bowes Lyon, the future Queen Mother. In her early years as Duchess of York, Lady Elizabeth wore the turquoise set beautifully. Photographs from that period show her adorned in its soft blue-green glow, a perfect expression of youthful grace and fashionable modernity. Yet the tides of fate and duty soon shifted. When her husband unexpectedly ascended the throne in the year 1936, her role transformed from Duchess to Queen Consort. With that change came a new visual language, one of formality, tradition, and regal gravitas. Her jewellery choices evolved accordingly, focusing on diamonds and the grander coloured gemstones more fitting for a queen. The turquoise parure, with its breezy elegance and playful hue, was quietly set aside, entering a long period of slumber. Its second life began in 1951, when Queen Elizabeth presented the entire intact set to her younger daughter, Princess Margaret, as a gift for her 21st birthday. On the young, radiant princess, the parure came alive once more. The cool turquoise stones glowed vividly against her dark hair and luminous complexion, and for a time, the tiara became one of the most substantial and recognisable pieces in her collection, second only to the legendary Baltimore tiara. But as Princess Margaret's collection grew richer and more varied over the years, the turquoise jewels began to fade quietly from view, seen only occasionally at public events. When the princess passed away in the year 2002, the turquoise tiara was notably absent from the auction of her personal jewels. Most sources agree that it likely remains within the family, perhaps with her son, the Earl of Snowdon, or, just as likely, tucked safely away once again in the royal vaults, resting in elegant silence, waiting for its next luminous appearance. From the cool serenity of turquoise, we now turn to the refined sparkle of Edwardian sophistication, a quieter, more graceful kind of glamour, embodied perfectly in Queen Alexandra's Edwardian choker. Unlike the grand, statement jewels that command attention through scale and brilliance, this piece speaks in whispers of elegance, its beauty found in restraint and poise. Queen Alexandra, celebrated for her slender silhouette and her distinctive taste for layered necklaces, acquired the choker during the first decade of the 20th century. It is a creation that captures the very essence of its age: light, refined, and touched with an almost ethereal delicacy. The design features soft diamond swags and interlocking circles, all centred around a single, perfect droplet of diamond brilliance. These elements rest upon a velvet band, luxurious, yet understated, allowing the shimmer of the gems to glint softly rather than blaze. The choker carries within it the unmistakable charm of Edwardian artistry, a balance of formality and fluidity, femininity expressed not through excess but through refinement. Queen Alexandra wore it on several notable public occasions during those final, glittering years before the First World War, at the opera, at court, and in society portraits that still radiate her timeless style. Yet, despite its grace, this particular jewel never sought the limelight. It was admired quietly, a personal adornment rather than a symbol of power or grandeur. Following Queen Alexandra's death in 1925, the choker seemed to vanish into near obscurity, tucked away and largely forgotten as fashions shifted dramatically through the decades. But like so many royal treasures, it was not gone forever. It resurfaced twice in the early 1970s, worn by Princess Anne, most memorably when she presented the Film and Television Arts Awards at the Royal Albert Hall. On her youthful, modern figure, the piece felt renewed a glimpse of Edwardian romance finding its way into a new age. Since then, the choker has once again withdrawn into private life, seen only in catalogues and a few carefully preserved photographs. No other royal has brought it back to public view. And yet, its delicate blend of diamonds, velvet, and soft design, so evocative of the Art Nouveau spirit, would look strikingly contemporary today. It remains one of those half-forgotten jewels, waiting patiently for rediscovery, a piece that, under the right light and on the right occasion, could shine as freshly and beautifully as it did more than a century ago. We now move from the jewels of fleeting fashion to those of profound and almost sacred meaning pieces that transcend adornment to become living relics of dynastic faith and heritage. These are not merely ornaments designed to dazzle. They are artifacts of devotion, history, and identity, and their stories rank among the most compelling in the entire royal collection. The first of these extraordinary treasures is Queen Alexandra's Dagmar necklace, a wedding gift of immense cultural and spiritual importance. When Princess Alexandra of Denmark prepared to marry the future King Edward VII in the year 1863, her kinsman, King Frederick VII of Denmark, commissioned this remarkable creation to mark the union between royal houses and nations. At its heart lies a piece unlike any other, a replica of a Byzantine-style reliquary cross, modelled after the one said to have been discovered in the tomb of the medieval Danish Queen Dagmar. According to legend, this ancient queen was beloved for her piety and compassion, and so the cross that bore her name carried deep spiritual resonance for Denmark. Into this newly crafted replica, King Frederick placed sacred relics of extraordinary significance. A fragment of wood believed to come from the true cross, and a small piece of silk said to have been taken from the grave of King Canute the Great. Surrounding this sacred centerpiece is a necklace of breathtaking artistry, composed of luminous pearls and thousands of glimmering diamonds, all arranged in a design that perfectly unites reverence and majesty. It is a creation that embodies both the grace of faith and the grandeur of monarchy, a true masterpiece in every sense. Queen Alexandra cherished this necklace deeply. She wore the complete piece, including the reliquary cross, for her coronation, honouring both her Danish heritage and her new role as Queen of the United Kingdom. She held it in such reverence that, in her will, she bequeathed it to the crown itself, but with one solemn condition, that no part of it should ever be altered. Many decades later, Queen Elizabeth II wore the Dagmar necklace on a few rare and carefully chosen occasions, yet she always did so without the cross. The decision remains shrouded in quiet mystery. Was the cross considered too sacred, too deeply personal a relic to wear at a state banquet? Or was it a thoughtful act of respect to celebrate the beauty of the necklace as art, while preserving the sanctity of its holy centerpiece? The answer, perhaps fittingly, remains unknown. For now, this magnificent and complex jewel, heavy with faith, history and symbolism, has once again emerged into the light. It is currently displayed as one of the crown jewels of the Edwardians Age of Elegance exhibition, where visitors can stand before it and marvel at its unparalleled splendour, an artefact not only of royal opulence, but of spiritual devotion that has endured through the centuries. Queen Adelaide's fringe embodies the quiet dignity of endurance, a jewel that has survived nearly 2 centuries of royal change, transition, and history. Yet despite its remarkable story, it is often mistaken for other pieces that share its distinctive, radiant silhouette. Many people recognise Queen Mary's 1919 fringe tiara, immortalised in the wedding photographs of Queen Elizabeth II in 1947. Others may recall the City of London fringe necklace, presented to the Queen in the 1950s. But Queen Adelaide's original fringe predates them all by many decades, and it carries with it an entirely different depth of historical resonance. The story begins in the year 1831, when King William IV commissioned the piece as a gift for his wife Queen Adelaide. It was crafted from diamonds that once belonged to King George III and Queen Charlotte, infusing it with both royal lineage and sentimental weight. From its creation, the fringe was already a living piece of family history, linking generations through its glittering geometry of diamonds arranged like delicate rays of light. It became, in every sense, a survivor. When the Hanoverian claim of 1858 stripped many older British jewels from the royal collection and sent them to Germany, this particular piece was spared. It stayed. That alone, makes it one of the few great diamond treasures to have remained continuously within the British royal family since the Georgian era. The young Queen Victoria adored it. She wore the fringe as a tiara during the early years of her reign, its bright, upright spikes of diamonds symbolising both radiance and strength. It even appears in Winterhalter's famous painting The 1st of May, where it glimmers as a crown of light upon her head. Later in life, during her long widowhood, she found a different way to honour the piece, having it removed from its tiara frame and stitched as a dazzling border onto her black court gowns, transforming it into an ornament of solemn grace. Queen Alexandra, ever inventive in her styling, found yet another use for it at her coronation in 1902. She wore the fringe not as a tiara or necklace, but as a girdle, cinching it elegantly around her waist, a bold and imaginative reinterpretation of royal jewels for a modern age. Queen Mary later revived the piece briefly as a tiara, but was dissatisfied with its slightly irregular shape. Rather than risk altering such a historic heirloom, she chose instead to create her own new version in 1919, using diamonds from a separate wedding gift. That reimagined piece became the tiara so many now recognise from royal weddings and portraits. Meanwhile, Adelaide's original fringe quietly withdrew from public life. It was eventually passed to Queen Elizabeth, the future Queen Mother, who had Garrard transform it back into a necklace. She wore it beautifully during the 1950s, its fringe design now forming a graceful diamond collar seen in her famous Dorothy Wilding portraits and at state banquets. When she passed away, the necklace came to Queen Elizabeth II in the year 2002, but with two other fringe jewels, already among her favoured pieces, Adelaide's original remained unworn and ancestor among its descendants, resting in the vault. There it lies still, the first and truest of the royal fringes, quietly preserving within its diamonds the long, glittering story of British monarchy. At last, we come to two pieces that linger like royal ghosts, beautiful, well-documented, yet mysteriously absent from public view. The first is the Sapphire Sunray Bandeau, a jewel shrouded in intrigue and rumour, its origins as fascinating as its disappearance. It may have begun its life in the glittering courts of St. Petersburg, or perhaps not. The distinguished jewellery historian Leslie Field once claimed that it belonged to Empress Maria Feodorovna, mother of the last Tsar, and indeed, Queen Mary was known to pair it with other jewels of confirmed Romanov provenance. Yet, like so many stories entwined with royal gems, its true beginnings remain wonderfully uncertain, half fact and half legend. What we do know is that Queen Mary acquired the piece around the year 1921. She wore it frequently throughout the 1930s, styling it with her unmistakable flair for reinvention and adaptation. The bandeau itself was a masterpiece of flexibility, a sleek diamond framework radiating in a sunray pattern from a central stone of remarkable size and colour. Sometimes, Queen Mary would even replace the central sapphire with her carved emerald brooch from the Delhi Durbar collection, instantly transforming its entire character, cool blue elegance one day, lush green imperial grandeur the next. It was the kind of jewel that could effortlessly bridge eras, and even now, one can imagine it fitting perfectly within modern fashion, a glittering echo of Art Deco grace, waiting for a confident wearer to bring it back to life. Upon Queen Mary's death in 1953, the Sapphire Sunray Bandeau passed to the Queen Mother, who, despite her deep love of jewels, never chose to wear it. And so it rested once more in silence, until it caught the discerning eye of Princess Margaret. For her, the piece was a revelation. She adored its adaptability and bold geometry, wearing it regularly through the 1950s and 60s. It accompanied her on the royal tour of the Caribbean in 1958, sparkled brilliantly at the German state visit that same year, and shone again at the wedding of Princess Astrid of Norway in 1961. Ever inventive, Margaret also realised the bandeau's secret versatility. The central sapphire could be detached and worn as a brooch, giving the jewel an entirely new life, and proving her intuitive understanding of modern elegance. And then silence once more. For more than 60 years, the Sapphire Sunray Bandeau has not been seen in public. Its fate remains a mystery. Was it quietly returned to the vaults? Does it still gleam somewhere in the private collection of the royal family, awaiting rediscovery? No one knows for certain, but one hopes that this ethereal creation, so full of light and history, still rests safely in the royal vault, its radiance merely sleeping, not gone. Queen Alexandra's collier Roos tells a story remarkably similar to that of many other forgotten royal jewels, a tale that begins in brilliance and ends in silence. Created at the height of Edwardian splendour, it stands as a testament to both extraordinary craftsmanship and the changing tides of royal taste. In the year 1904, Queen Alexandra commissioned this magnificent choker from the great house of Cartier. The design was bold yet refined, fashioned in a distinctive fishnet or lattice style of interwoven diamonds that shimmered like captured starlight. Into this diamond mesh, Alexandra incorporated detachable emerald and ruby drops, precious gifts she had received from Indian Maharajas. The result was a creation that epitomised Edwardian luxury, elegant, elaborate and vividly coloured, perfectly suited to a queen who was already celebrated across Europe for her impeccable sense of style. Alexandra wore the collier Roos for several striking portraits, including those taken with her sister, the Empress Maria Feodorovna of Russia, where the choker's delicate sparkle contrasted beautifully against their regal composure. It also made one of its most famous appearances in an iconic painting by Francois Flaming, where Alexandra paired it with Queen Victoria's small diamond crown, a portrait that still hangs in Buckingham Palace, capturing her at the height of her beauty and majesty. After Queen Alexandra's death in 1925, the collier Roos passed to Queen Mary, whose love of reimagining and reworking jewels was legendary. In true Queen Mary fashion, she made notable alterations to the original piece. The ruby and emerald drops were removed, replaced with diamonds, transforming the necklace from a vibrant, multicoloured creation into something of pure, glacial brilliance. It was a reinvention, less exotic, more regal, entirely characteristic of Mary's eye for stately elegance. She wore the modified version in 1934, pairing it with Queen Alexandra's Kokoshnik tiara, and again in 1947 for her 80th birthday portraits. On both occasions, she sometimes added Cullinan diamonds as pendants, further elevating its grandeur. Upon Queen Mary's death, the collier Roos was inherited by Queen Elizabeth II in 1953. Yet, following a familiar royal pattern, the necklace was never worn again. Though mentioned in Hugh Roberts's The Queen's Diamonds in the year 2012, confirming its continued existence somewhere within the royal vaults, it has not graced a royal neck since Queen Mary's final years. It is, in many ways, one of the great frustrations for admirers of royal jewellery. The collier Roos is not only a piece of exquisite design, but also an embodiment of Cartier's early 20th century mastery, a time when the firm's craftsmanship and artistry reached dazzling heights. One can only imagine how magnificently it would photograph today, its intricate diamond web catching the light like woven frost. Yet for now, this masterpiece remains unseen, another sleeping beauty among the treasures of the crown. Looking at all these extraordinary masterpieces lying quietly in the depths of the royal vaults, I can't help but feel as though we are standing before one of history's most fascinating mysteries, a glittering archive of forgotten splendour. Here are tiaras that endured the thunder of world wars, necklaces that journeyed across continents and empires, brooches that have borne silent witness to the rise and fall of dynasties. Each one, for now, rests unseen, waiting patiently for the moment when it might once again be chosen to shine beneath the lights of history. And truly, after revisiting these stories so rich in artistry, emotion, and heritage, it feels impossible to select just one jewel that I most long to see reappear. Every piece is remarkable in its own right. Some captivate through sheer beauty and craftsmanship, others through their dramatic histories or their quiet, unspoken mysteries. All of them, however, share one thing. They deserve another moment in the spotlight, another chance to remind the world of the elegance and meaning they still carry. But now, I would love to turn the question to you. Out of all the treasures we've explored together, is there one that speaks most strongly to you? One jewel you'd most wish to see return to the public eye? And, perhaps even more intriguingly, on whom would you most like to see it worn? Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the hidden corners of royal history, through the beauty, the craftsmanship, and the whispered secrets of these magnificent jewels. If you've enjoyed exploring their stories and uncovering the forgotten brilliance of the world's greatest treasures, I would be delighted if you subscribe to the channel. After all, there are always more vaults to open, more legends to rediscover, and more moments of light waiting to emerge from the shadows.